You're muted.
Teoscar Hernandez is the Dodgers right fielder right now, and Tarik Skubal is not a Dodger right now. Could either of those change? Let's talk about it as soon as I'm off mute here on All Dodgers. Coming at you live from my mom's basement in Pleasant Grove, Utah. This is the All Dodgers podcast, part of the Bleav Network of podcasts, presented by FanDuel. We're also coming at you from Clint's mom's basement in beautiful La Puente, California. This is All Dodgers. I am Jeff. It's All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas. If you ask Clint Pasillas, it's actually All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas and Jeff Snyder. That's the two of us. I'm at Snydog on Twitter. Clint is at RealFRG on all the socials. And here we are, Clint, you and me. Here we are face to face, a couple of silver spoons. Let's talk Dodgers. The winter meeting started today, Clint. And nothing has happened yet, but people have talked about things maybe happening, and that's
what we're here for, baby.
That's kind of the point of the winter meetings. You know, you and I have both been to the winter meetings. We've actually been to the winter meetings together, wherein we sat in the media room together and refreshed Twitter to see if anything was happening, just like everybody was doing at home. That's how the winter meetings work. And so far, like we said, nothing has happened. But
there's kind of some. If we're gonna get the Skubal thing, we'll get into that obviously first, because I think that is the biggest one to kind of dive into, and we have not touched that really at all this offseason. But Dave had his media availability, and Andrew Friedman spoke to reporters yesterday. Brandon Gomes was also around speaking to media today, and the narrative is something we've already talked about. We did a video about a month ago. Like, could the Dodgers run it back mostly as is? And they are either teeing up that possibility, or laying out a real big smokescreen because something big is happening, maybe as big as a Tarik Skubal sort of signing. So, not signing, but trade. Things are happening, or things are not. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it makes sense for the Dodgers from their standpoint to say, we don't need to do anything this offseason. It's technically true. They're losing Michael Conforto, which means they're probably a better team right now than they were in 2025 because they don't have Michael Conforto on the team anymore. No offense, Michael. I'm sure your mom watches the podcast. I appreciate you. But from a standpoint of whether it's free agents or trades, the Dodgers, it makes sense for them to present themselves as, I'm sure we'll get better if the right opportunity presents itself, but we're not desperate. That doesn't mean that they're not going to get better, because they're going to get better. They're the Dodgers. And the intriguing report today came, however many grains of salt this is, it's probably several grains of salt. This report came from David Pingalore, who, now I haven't watched KTLA since Hal Fishman used to do the news. I believe Hal Fishman has passed away now.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I've been a regular KTLA watcher. David Pingalore works for KTLA. According to his Twitter profile, he's their sports anchor. Are you familiar with David Pingalore before this tweet?
I am very familiar. We actually did at DN, we did Brooke and I, in the Wayback Machine, did a sports spot or whatever. They came into the old headquarters there and talked about this new podcast that was out, Blue Heaven, and it was cool. It was on TV, and then we went into their studio once or twice. We were kind of their pregame people for a little bit, but then they wised up and cut bait on us at some point. But I know Ping. I spent some time with him. Nice fellow, not maybe the brightest tool in the shed at times. can read and create headlines out of maybe something that he misinterpreted, or I don't know. But
nice so film. Anyway, all of that is the caveat to say David Pingalore is reporting that the Dodgers are in talks to potentially trade for Tarik Skubal. In talks is an interesting phrase because that could mean anything from we are actively discussing, who we would send back in return for Tarik Skubal, or it could mean that Andrew Friedman has the phone number for whoever the Tigers GM is these days, and called him and said, "Oh, so that Tarik Skubal guy's pretty good, huh? Wouldn't mind having that guy." We don't know to what level. David Pingalore says nothing done yet, but the momentum is real, and this could heat up as soon as today. Now, this tweet happened almost 7 hours ago now, 6 hours and 51 minutes ago, for those of you who like hashtag math and hashtag telling time, by which I mean everybody except Clint.
Hell yeah.
So nothing has happened yet, as far as I know, at least as of a few minutes ago when I last time I scrolled Twitter. But David Pingalore thinks there's a chance the Dodgers could get Tarik Skubal. All of which to say, let's talk about this, Clint, because
Yeah, man.
I like Tarik Skubal. That's my bottom line. I think Tarik Skubal is really
Bold.
good at baseball.
That's a bold stance.
Yeah. I wanted the Dodgers to try to get Tarik Skubal 2 years ago before he had ever won a Cy Young Award, because it was clear that he was going to be a very good pitcher. He was already a very good pitcher. He's turned himself into one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last couple of years. I just popped up on the screen his stats, some of his stats over the last 2 seasons combined, and where that ranks in Major League Baseball. Strikeouts, 469 strikeouts, the most in baseball. 31 wins, second most in baseball. 2.30 ERA, second best in baseball, behind only Paul Skeens. FIP, 2.47, third best, behind only Paul Skeens and Chris Sale. ERA plus, second best, behind only Paul Skeens. Strikeouts per 9, 10.9, only sixth best. Surprisingly, he wouldn't even be the best on the Dodgers. He's behind at least Tyler Glasnow. I closed the tab, but he's at least behind Tyler Glasnow among Dodgers. Let's see. I just reopened the tab.
Drum roll.
I believe.
Halfway there.
Where did I say strikeouts per 9? There it is. Tyler Glasnow is the only current Dodger ahead of Tarik Skubal. But yeah, sixth in baseball. Strikeouts per walk, first in baseball, 6.9. And whip, just over 0.9 first. Like, over the last 2 seasons, you can make a very good case. It would be hard to make a case for anything worse than second best pitcher in baseball. Paul Skeens, maybe better. But I mean, when the only possible person better than you is Paul Skeens, who people are talking about as generational, one of the best pitchers ever, pretty good spot to be in. So all of that to say, Tarik Skubal, the Dodgers don't need starting pitching.
No.
But Tarik Skubal, in my opinion, Clint, is a guy you make room for. It reminds me of when Freddie Freeman was a free agent. The Dodgers didn't need a first baseman. They had Max Muncy, who had turned himself into one of the best defensive first basemen in baseball. But when Freddie Freeman's available, you make room for Freddie Freeman. And the Dodgers are happy that they made room for Freddie Freeman. Tarik Skubal is right there in that category for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is every bit of a ceiling raiser and a floor raiser if you're able to get him. Of course, that comes with, taking talent off of that major league roster and out of the minor leagues and all of that. Even, does he have 1 year left of team control?
1 year left, yeah.
Even with that, I mean, we're still talking a sizable, a significant, a monstrous bag, a monstrous haul to make a blockbuster like this happen. And, I could think back to the good old days of Mike Trout being a happy and healthy boy and people talking about saving Mike Trout from the Angels. But what does that trade look like? Like, it feels like it would take, and granted, he had a bunch of team control left because of that massive contract, but still, it feels like you are doing more of a disservice to your club in trying to trade for this massive player. Or whatever, try to make this blockbuster happen, doing like an 8-for-1 sort of deal or a 5 or 6-for-1. It feels like too much. But then again, if you find a way to add Tarik Skubal, I guess you do it. I don't know. I guess all of that's to say I'm mixed about this. I probably lean towards no, just because I would like to see them hold on to the talent. And like you said, leading into my rant here, my rambling, they already have starting pitching. They have a lot of starting pitching as it is, and it's good pitching, living pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. But they don't have the 6 best starting pitchers in baseball. And Dodgers, we're going to be looking at a 6-man rotation. Yeah. And, they have 4 of the best starters in baseball, and they have a lot of guys with some potential. I don't think even even the loftiest expectations of Emmett Sheehan would put him as one of the top 6 pitchers in baseball.
But do you
Right?
need 6 aces for the post?
You know what? It's like every day I'll text my wife, "Hey, do you need anything?" And she always replies with, "Need is a silly word." And that when she says that, that means she wants me to go get her a Dr. Pepper with half and half of caramel in it. It's So Delicious. If you're ever in Utah, check out So Delicious. It's good stuff. We
Hey,
Utahns like our
you don't
soda.
you don't plug your stuff on my notes.
I wish I owned So Delicious. But you know what? Need is a funny word. And,
Yep.
you know, the arguments, and we're seeing them in the chat. Alex Renteria says, dadgummit.
You did that thing. Well,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you won't put this one, so I'm gonna just say PJ Raiders says F them prospects 3-peat.
Yeah, I won't put that one up there. But Alex Renteria says Skubal would just be a 1-year rental. I don't see the Dodgers giving a $400+ million contract.
That's another really good point.
Skubal is a Scott Boras client. Now, the Dodgers did just sign Blake Snell last year, a Scott Boras client. I don't think a Boras client necessarily disqualifies him. But yeah, there's a decent chance that Skubal might be looking for a bigger contract than what the Dodgers are willing to give him. There's also a chance that him spending a year with the Dodgers, seeing how nice it is to have other aces in the rotation, how much fun it is to win a World Series, that might give them the leg up, even if, you know, they didn't want to go all in. But that's absolutely a consideration. Cole says, we don't need Skubal, but it would be the villain in us to keep him away from the Mets or Yankees. There's
Fair.
definitely that to consider. And Jay says, Skubal is great, no doubt, but if we're basing it on the Dodgers' MO, I'd rather have them get Skeens. I don't think Paul Skeens is going anywhere. I would absolutely rather have Paul Skeens just because of the team control. I like Tarik Skubal as a pitcher. You know, Skeens is younger and has more team control. So he would make more sense, but all the reasons that he makes more sense for the Dodgers are the same reasons why it's less likely that he gets traded. Tarik Skubal getting traded is a legit possibility because he only has 1 year left on his contract. The Tigers, if they don't think they are legit contenders to win the World Series in 2026, and they don't think that they're legit contenders to give him the contract he's looking for in free agency, it would be, you know, and you mentioned when we were texting earlier, Ken Rosenthal is kind of pushing for the Tigers to trade Skubal because it would be, obviously it would suck for Tiger fans and stuff, but it would be silly of them to hold on to him if they could stock their system, if they could get 2 MLB ready starting pitchers plus 2 other really good prospects, you know, from the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, you could really go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was gonna say you really could make the argument that the right trade from the Dodgers in this scenario, the right trade could make them better. It could make the Tigers better because it could net them two like higher quality starting pitchers. Let's say it is like a Glasnow and Sheehan, Emmett Sheehan in there, or maybe I don't know how well we're rating, you know, Roki Sasaki in there. But that's the thing. It's going to take that kind of a deal, a Sheehan and a Sasaki and I don't know what those other ands are, but probably some sort of position player talent, which Dodgers don't necessarily have, at least anybody ready and pounding on the door. Maybe Alex Freeland. I think he's better than Zach McKinstry. I don't know. We didn't see it at the big league level. But yeah, if you are able to add a couple of threes over year one, maybe that's better for Detroit. But again, it still feels like they need just such a massive haul to make it worth their time. It's tough for all sides for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you made the Mike Trout comparison. And, you know, part of the reason that Mike Trout, even when he was the consensus best player in baseball, one of the best players in history, he was untradeable because it's such a risk to give up 6-7 players for one guy who could get hurt.
Yeah,
man,
it really is tough.
And because if he does get hurt, like imagine if a team had given up their entire farm system for Mike Trout 4 years ago, and now he's been hurt so much the last 4 years. Still a great player when he's playing for the most part, but hurt. And I hate to tell you this, but pitchers are even more likely to get hurt than center fielders. It seems likely that Tarik Skubal gets hurt sometime in the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, he had the Tommy John, what, 2 years ago? No, not 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I think it was. Or did he not?
He only pitched 80 innings in 2023 and 117 innings in 2022. So,
Okay, so he had Tommy John in college, and then he missed
Okay.
time in that 22 season with the flexor tendon issue, surgery on the flexor. At least this is from Google AI, so you could trust that as far as you can throw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely trustworthy. AI's taking our jobs. Yeah, it's
a robot. That's what that was.
I can only see half of this comment, but I like it already. Jeff, that's a bad example. If the Dodgers win a World Series with him, he would definitely go chase the money since he already would have a World Series ring. Yeah, maybe.
But the power of friendship.
Only the Blue Jays have that.
Oh, that's what I forgot about that. Raul earlier in the chat with the 199 super chat, and I'll hit the gong on my side for that. Saying Dodgers having an elite lefty, Sandy, Kirsch, Skubal. I mean, they do have Blake Snell, but to get another lefty to pair along Snell, put alongside Snell in there would be nice for sure. Again, it's just what does that trade look like? Because they're not going to get away with the type of fleece that ended up happening with Mookie Betts. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah,
and that was a 5-for-1 deal.
No, Mookie. It was Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and Connor Wong. I think it was just the three of them.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah, they did a 5-for-1 for Manny Machado, who was a 2-month rental, but all of those guys, like a couple of those guys, made the big leagues. Maybe all of them ended up making the big leagues, but I think the best one was Zach Pop.
Zach Pop is the same.
Dean Kramer. Dean Kramer's been decent.
Yeah.
But it was guys like that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. They're not going to get away with a trade like that. They're going to have to give up some real quality. But this Dodger system, we talked about. We were looking at all the starting pitchers the other day, and if thinking, I don't think Glasnow's going anywhere. But I think the Tigers would be more interested in the younger guys who are much more cost controlled anyway.
Exactly.
And so, when you talk about the names like Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, River Ryan, those guys, you would guess that 2 of those 3 would have to go in a trade for Skubal, plus, a couple position player prospects of actual high quality prospects. Obviously, you would guess it would be one of their 5 highly ranked outfield prospects. Hopefully just for James Tibbs' sake, not him. Just not being traded for the 3rd time in 6 months. But Fair. Eduardo Quintero, Josue De Paula, Zaire Hope, Mike Sirota, those guys, at least one of those guys, plus, I'm not familiar enough with the Tigers farm system to know what they might be targeting prospect wise, but that's the kind of package we're looking at. We're talking major league ready starting pitchers with a very high ceiling, plus more in the prospect department. For a 1-year trade, it's really, really interesting to think about. Richie says the Dodgers would have to include the DeVore man cave in the deal for Skubal. Sign me up. The man cave. Does
that mean trading also Richie to Detroit with the man cave? Because I think they are inseparable.
I think Locked On Tigers is looking for new viewers. I assume there's a Locked On Tigers. I don't know.
They talk about football over there?
They're a bunch of Detroit Lions fans, to always talking about Malice at the Palace, Sorry, I just told you everything I know about Detroit.
He's a big time sports guy. Look at that. Sports
JY Kim, $5 super chat. Hit a gong for me, Clint.
I got a gong.
He says, congratulations on reaching 21,000 subscribers. Did any major deals or signing takes place in last year's winter meetings? I can't quite remember. The main winter meetings that I remember is the ones 3 years ago when you and I were sitting together in the media room at the winter meetings in San Diego.
That was a heavy meetings, man.
We had Arson Judge signing with the Giants.
Cody non-tendered. Trey Turner signs that deal with Philadelphia.
Xander Bogaerts signed with the Padres.
Yeah.
I know what's his name signed with the Angels. The closer the last couple of years, guy from the Rockies, Carlos Estevez.
Oh yeah.
He signed with the Angels. That was the first move. I remember I was sitting in a chair next to Jose Batista when that news came down. And Tim Rogers actually told me about that signing. Anyway, so yeah, sometimes the winter meetings have big moves, and sometimes they don't. There's always stuff to talk about, though. And so, yeah, I don't remember if anything went down last year. So,
I mean, I think last year was also just a lot of the continued Roki rumors and conversation. I think that was the bulk of the winter meetings.
Yeah, because Roki had been posted, but we
Teo.
knew he wasn't going to sign until January.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. When it comes to Skubal, Clint, seems like you're kind of on the fence. You're leaning no just because of what it would take to get him.
I like the talent that this team has, honestly, and you know what we're going to probably talk about next in hearing Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes. You know, they're all talking about how they don't need to do heavy lifting, and maybe, you know, again, maybe some of that is some smokescreen and saying like, oh, we're probably not going to do anything. Don't try to come after us or expect us to sign your expensive players. But I think they honestly mean it. This is a roster that you could plug and play, you know, the 40 man right now and have a pretty good shot at winning a World Series. I really do believe that this roster is good enough. Yes, I would probably prefer to see another veteran outfielder get signed just for the competition's sake in spring training. But if it ends up being, you know, Ryan Ward and Alex Call taking down the lion's share in left field, and if not, you know, you find a way to make things work. You still have Ha-Seong Kim you need to try to figure out. But more so focusing on that starting rotation. And, you know, we put that screen up a couple of times. You don't have it. I could probably send it to you, but the amount of depth that they have, like, they are fine. You have Gavin Stone, who was an all-star when he was healthy in 2024. He is coming back from injury, and yeah, it's shoulder surgery. So you're worried about a potential regression or longer bounce back, but you still have him. You still have Emmett Sheehan. You got to see what you have in River Ryan. You got to really see what you have in Roki Sasaki, who could be a very, very good pitcher. You know, it took Shohei Ohtani a couple of years before he figured out kind of hitting and pitching, but definitely before he figured out the pitching here in the States. So, and you have Ohtani in the rotation for the entirety of the year. Like, this is a good enough rotation. It's better than a good enough rotation. It's a great enough rotation to where I'm okay with the Dodgers not needing to, for once, not needing to go out and go get the best of the best in whatever position, because they do not need it, to borrow from Mrs. Snyder. Need is a strong word there, or whatever you said. I wasn't listening.
Absolutely. I think the last thing I'll say about Skubal before we move on to segueing into the outfield that you just mentioned, Matty Man Dodge in the chat says, haven't the Dodgers gone back-to-back without Skubal? It's absolutely true. But for me, the big but there is
you cannot lie. Because you said
I believe 2025 was an anomaly that Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Ohtani were all healthy to pitch. And that's where, if I could guarantee those four would be healthy again next October, I think I'd be like, okay, we probably don't need Skubal. I just don't know how likely it is that these four guys, all of whom have at least some degree of injury risk, are going to be healthy 2 Octobers in a row. And so if one of those guys is down, I really like the idea of Tarik Skubal being the fourth starter, or, you know, one of those four starters, rather than having to go with, you know, I mean, worst case scenarios, you have to go with I'm going to feel bad for saying Landon Knack's name right here, but a Landon Knack type of pitcher. You know,
because if it's one of those four dudes, if you're talking about it being, you know, Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, or Glasnow, one of those guys being down, it's Sheehan plugged in.
You would hope that Sheehan or Stone or River Ryan would be healthy. For me, 2024 wasn't that long ago when we had Landon Knack starting games and bullpen games and stuff in the postseason. And yeah, they
won a World Series.
they did win the World Series, but I don't think they ever want to do that again. And so I think for me, with the way the Dodgers farm system is loaded up, somebody in the chat earlier said the Dodgers wouldn't do the trade unless they had an extension in place. Cole said that.
Mm.
I don't think you're going to get that with Tarik Skubal. They got that with Tyler Glasnow, but Tyler Glasnow was a hometown guy with, not the pedigree, the resume that Tarik Skubal has. He had the talent, but not the history of putting it together. And so I don't think you're getting an extension on Skubal. And maybe that is how the Dodgers can use it as a negotiating ploy where, look, we're willing to give you a lot, but not everything that you're asking for because he is a 1-year rental. So it could happen. I think for the most part, I'm in favor of it. The whatever prospects or even major league ready guys they're giving up, they're not as good as Tarik Skubal. And I think the Dodgers can afford, with their farm system, they can afford to go year to year of, okay, what's the best way we can ruin baseball this year? And getting the best or second best pitcher in baseball, for me, if it's available, you go do it,
Hey, next offseason, it's just money and a draft pick, baby.
Yeah. Enigma $1.99 super chat says, who cares if we need Skubal? He's Tarik Skubal.
He is
Absolutely.
Another reason why I don't want him is the people who are going to call him Tarik.
I think that's only what's his name on MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. Used to play for the Phillies. What's the dude's name? Played for the Phillies and Giants. Utility guy. Can't remember his name right now. Probably for the best, since I was about to call him out for not knowing the second best pitcher in baseball's name. But yeah, it's Tarik. And with that said, let's take a quick look over at the FanDuels. They don't have an option right now to bet on whether or not the Dodgers will trade for Tarik Skubal. They do, of course, have NFL odds if you're into the NFL. Right now, if you were an Eagles fan, hypothetically speaking, Clint, and you wanted to live bet on the game that they're playing right now, in which they're trailing 10-6 to the Chargers.
Come on.
You could get plus 162 odds on the Eagles right now. You know what? They're only down by 4 points in the third quarter. Just second half just started. They're down by 4 points. If you think the Eagles are going to beat the Chargers, now it just went to plus 158. Things are changing. If you think the Chargers are going to hold on, it's minus 205. Just for funsies, let's see what the Raiders odds are looking like because we know there's some Raider fans in Dodgers land. I can't even find them. Do they not play next week maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention. I just know I need the Birds to do something because maybe Daddy, and I don't mean Alex Call, maybe I've got $100 riding on him. Just saying.
But the Los Angeles Rams, the favorite team of the football experts at Locked On Dodgers, are currently minus 255 favorites over the Detroit Lions, the favorite team of the football experts over at Locked On Tigers. So, the Rams are looking good if you're an LA fan. And finally, the Dodgers are currently at plus 360 to win the 2026 World Series. Those odds will change if the Dodgers get Tarik Skubal.
Yeah.
And with that
said,
change
by a lot.
Let's start talking about Teoscar Hernandez, because Dave Roberts talked to the media today, and Dave Roberts said, right now, Teo is our right fielder. Right now is a fun phrase in that sentence, Clint, because that could mean a few different things. And before people get too crazy, I will say that Brandon Gomes followed that up by saying it's hard for him to picture the Dodgers trading Teoscar Hernandez. He expects Teoscar Hernandez to be in the organization. Of course, that's still a general manager talking about, who has no reason to say if he thinks that they might trade him. But there are other ways, less concrete ways of saying no comment. That was a relatively strong way of saying Teo's going to be on the team. So it seems to me like the right now refers more to where Teoscar will be playing position-wise than what uniform he will be wearing. So for me, Clint, I think Dave Roberts is hinting that perhaps Teoscar Hernandez will be the Dodgers' starting left fielder when the season starts, and he's their right fielder right now. Is that how you interpret that as well?
Yeah, I think that's kind of piecing together what Doc said today and what Andrew Friedman told at least Bill Plunkett yesterday. I didn't see who else reported on it. It feels like they're first trying to kind of shake out what they have internally and the best way to deploy them and who's the most healthy. And what I read all that to be is whether or not Tommy Edman could be the center fielder, or at least a part-time center fielder. But yeah, the right now is not a for now. It is right now he's a right fielder, and maybe he could move to left, which, I mean, maybe Dave's just tired of being bombarded by those questions over and over, because we know, Jeff, that Teoscar Hernandez is not a good right fielder. He's not a good defensive left fielder. He's not a good defensive outfielder, period. But Dave likes him. We like him. He's a good baseball player when he could out hit his defensive woes, and that's what I'm betting on. That is the goal for Teo in 2026. Get closer to what he did for this team in 24, and we won't have to worry as much about his very, very shoddy defense in whichever corner he's playing. But I would be shocked. I would be blown away if the Dodgers did trade him this winter.
That's where I'm at too. It's hard to see him being traded, partly because he is a DH who makes a lot of money, and I feel like the Dodgers have to eat quite a bit of contract in order to move Teoscar.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if they're eating contract anyway, maybe you just bet on the offensive resurgent. I think it's interesting how many people think that moving him to left field is a cure-all. Because
yeah, that's fair.
People think of 2024 Teoscar Hernandez and think he was a left fielder and he was better, therefore he should be a left fielder and he would be better. The fact is, he was a very, very, very bad defensive left fielder in 2024. And in 2025, he was a very, very, very bad defensive right fielder. You can quibble about which one was worse. That's kind of like, quibbling about which one of us, should lose weight, Clint. You know what? We're both big fat fatties. Teo is going to be a bad defensive outfielder in whichever corner he's playing in. I hope he's putting in work to try to be better. I don't know that Teoscar Hernandez has the capability of being a good defensive outfielder or even an average defensive outfielder.
Yeah.
I think there are just some skills that he does not possess, because it's not an athleticism thing. It's not a speed thing. There may have been some injury aspect to his bad defense in 2025, but he was healthy in 2024, and he was bad. He was running fast from home to first base during the same part of 2025 that he was looking like he was on roller skates and really slow roller skates in right field this year. So, I'm not convinced that there's anything that's going to make him a solid defensive outfielder. And so it really gets down to, okay, which corner do you want him being bad in? And there are more balls hit to left field, which is an argument for right field. The argument for left field is a misplay in left field turns into a double. A misplay in right field can turn into a triple. But as I pointed out last week when we were talking, Dodgers only allowed like 3 more triples in 2025 than they did in 2024. Teo wasn't out there turning a ton of balls into triples. He was turning balls into singles. He was turning outs into singles, sometimes outs into doubles.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. The floater down the just behind second and first and just a little bit away from right field. People can't see what I'm doing with my hands here really, but I envision it. That little teardrop that drops in, those are the ones that he struggles with the most, and those are the ones that seem to burn the Dodgers the most often. Those ones he just plainly can't get to for some reason. Yeah,
and that's an argument that, well, why would you put him in the field where more balls are hit?
Line drives?
Yeah, there could be something about, and we've talked about that. Maybe it's the nature of the balls hit to right field because there's more right-handed hitters, so a ball hit to right field maybe has more slice, so it's harder to judge than a ball to left field. I don't know. What I do know is that Teo was a bad left fielder, and the reason we don't care is because he was a great hitter in 2024. And I think, regardless of what corner Teo's playing in, if he hits like he did in 2024, we are going to have the same positive feelings we had about him in 2024 even though he will still be a terrible outfielder like he was in 2024. And so, for me, I feel like if you sign somebody, for example, if you get a center fielder, if you get Jarren Duran or Byron Buxton, who's going to be an everyday or everyday-ish center fielder, it makes sense to put Andy Pages in right field because we know he's an elite right fielder. And then you put Teoscar Hernandez in left. If you have Pages in right and Buxton in center, for example, you can even make up for some of Teo's bad defense in left because you can shade guys and all of that. Having elite defenders in the other two spots can cover up a lot of Teo's badness. So I think that would be a really good reason to move Teo to left. I don't think move Teo to left and figure everything else out is the answer, which it seems to be. I feel like a lot of people thinks that's the answer.
Yeah, I could see that sort of being a thought process or a narrative for some people, but I agree with what you're saying there. He needs to be moved off of right field, forced off of right field, rather just move him for funsies, and then, like you said, figure it out from there. And like personally, I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Tommy Edman. I don't know how bought in I am on Tommy Edman being the everyday center fielder. Like, I don't know if it's all the ankle, but the offense dropped off pretty hard after that hot start last season. He's never been an exceptionally gifted, hitter. He's not an all-star, an MVP caliber hitter or whatever. Maybe he's better to be more of a bench dude. So if you are able to find a plug-and-play center fielder, that's the only reason to really force Teo off of it. Now, if it's moving him also like back and forth to left and right, maybe maybe that keeps him fresh and froggy, but I doubt it.
I doubt it, and I don't know that fresh and froggy is Teo's issue. Yeah, I agree. I think Tommy Edman is at his best when he's a utility player, playing. Especially if they get Jarren Duran, they're gonna want Edman playing against left-handed pitchers sometimes. Duran, I've seen him referred to by some people as a platoon player. I don't think it's quite there. But yeah, he's definitely a much, much better hitter against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching. And we know Edman, for the most part, is a better hitter against left-handed pitching than against right-handed pitching. And so having Edman definitely makes a Duran trade more palatable because you do have that built-in occasional sub in center field against a left-handed pitcher. I think that's Edman's role. We got a couple chats that I want to throw out there. Cole says, how many games did Teoscar's defense cost the Dodgers? Was it more bullpen? I think clearly the bullpen cost them more games. Did you freeze up or did I?
I mean, it was one of us, probably me.
Anyway, I think it's clear that the bullpen cost the Dodgers more games. But, it's the Dodgers could be in for another street fight in the NL West next year. The Giants are trying to get better. The Padres still have a very talented team. We don't know if they'll have anybody to pitch for that team, but Dodgers are going to need to win games in the regular season, not necessarily to get to the postseason, but I think the Dodgers would have enjoyed not playing in the wild card series this year. They're going to want to get back to doing that next year. And so every little way you can get better is important. And I think they're going to be looking at all those things, including where Teoscar plays. This isn't a super chat. It's a super sticker. So we just get the description of the sticker, which is a para-character stretching his arm forward, raising his thumb up. That's from our friends at Drip Show Shop. I'm going to mess with things.
Oh, nice. That's where you put yours at.
Yeah, they're over there. I wish, I already have my background monopolized by my bobbleheads. But I've got my Clayton Kershaw and my Freddie Freeman Drip Show Shop canvases over there. I've also got my 2020 cardboard cutout that sat behind home plate at Dodger Stadium over there.
I've got Vinny down here. I need to find a spot for Vin. Kirsch lives over there. My dog was sitting in that chair earlier, but he was borking, so I kicked him out. And Shohei lives up there.
Nice.
Back to you in the studio.
Shout out to Drip Show Shop. Yeah. Check them out. They've got some great stuff. Let's see if I can see what else I got. Back there, I've got, see if I get right there. That's a cross stitch that my wife did of Vin Scully. Underneath it says it's time for Dodger baseball. Above that, you've got Vin Scully's letter to the fans from his final weekend. Up there, you got Dodger Stadium, 661 miles.
Is this a man cave tour?
It might be. I don't have a man cave. I have an office, though. Back there, you got a picture of my kids. They're cute. That says fan cave, which is close.
That's close. That's pretty close.
Yeah. Let's see. If
Anyways, the important thing is shout out to our friend.
Shout out to Drip Show Shop and check them out.
Sent me something else that is coming whenever it gets here. I'm very much looking forward to that because it's supposed to be like super personalized. Very, very much appreciate Drip Show Shop. Hit them up to get stuff for your, it's holiday season. They don't pay us to do stuff to talk about it. Obviously, sends us.
They do send us stuff sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, which is very, very nice. But the thing is, these canvases are pretty badass. They're very well done. So for that Dodger fan in your life that wants some Dodger swag, hit up Drip Show Shop on the Instagram. Send them a DM. There was another chat. I don't know if you had this one loaded up, by the way, but from JR41. It's talking about, it says with your, and it's JARH, with Jeff Point with Teo. Was Teo that bad offensively? Yes, his stats dropped off, but we knew he was hurt. How much does that attribute between the injury and the bad play? We know the injury probably, can't say we know and probably, 90% chance that injury affected his offense more than his defense because the sprint speed was still there. It didn't affect his running. I think either way, he's going to be a kind of lumbering runner that's going to affect his ability to judge the ball and get good reads, good routes, all of that kind of stuff. But that leg injury, the hamstring, groin, whatever it was, I always keep forgetting because, they're all so close. But, that's going to affect the hitting. And I think, that really was the biggest issue that drew that much more attention to the bad defense, was that the offense was also bad, as we've talked about, time and time again. Yeah.
Teoscar Hernandez's on-base percentage this year was 284. Like, it's terrible. It's awful. He made up for it somewhat with his power to the point where his OPS plus was still 103. So he's still a slightly above average hitter, but slightly above average is not what you're looking for in a corner outfielder. You need a good hitter, especially if he's bad at defense. And that's why, Baseball Reference has him at 1.5 WAR. Fangraphs has him at 0.6 WAR. Both of those are translated as not good enough to start. That's what he was in 2025. I do expect him to be better because I do think at least some of that was related to the injury. I hope so. That's all I could do is really hope so. And that's part of the reason why I don't expect him to be traded because, buy high, sell low is not what smart people do. And the Dodgers do have a lot of smart people. But that's only if the Dodgers believe he's going to get better. Because if they don't, then right now might be selling high if he's even worse next year. I hope he bounces back. I hope he's fully healthy and we see it because like you said, he was hitting pretty well before he got injured and maybe he never really recovered from that. The things that concern me, the strikeout rate was actually better this year than it was last year in 2024.
But it was a lot more weak contact, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, his hard hit percentage. Well, no, not really. I mean, 46.9,
or at least not line drive contact.
Yeah, 46.9% hard hit percentage in 2024, 46.1. So down a little bit, but not a ton. Line drive percentage was actually up a little bit this year. Ground ball percentage was down a little bit. Fly ball percentage up a little bit. All in all, like his BABIP was worse by quite a bit. And that's maybe the best argument in favor of hopefully he will get better because his career BABIP is 325. The last 2 years it was 342 and 344. This year is 283, like a huge drop. And that often means he's not hitting the balls hard or with ideal launch angles, whatever. But yeah, that like his strikeout rate was actually the best of his career in 2025. And we can all picture him striking out a lot. And yet this was the best he's ever been in his career at not striking out. So he's going to have to, he's going to have to make up for the struggles because chances are the strikeout rate is probably going back closer to his career, which is 29%. This year is 24.5%. So
Hey, he can strike out all he wants as long as he's be hitting dingers and driving in runs. Because I mean,
well said.
He was great. Like before that injury, he was great. He absolutely was clutch AF, as the kids say, and I think that was really probably the biggest thing is that the clutch gene was almost MIA in the second half of the season or when he returned from that injury. Um, Anyways, I think we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about Teo.
So to summarize, we believe Teo will be a Dodger and he will be playing one of the corners in the outfield. And which corner will be determined more by what other moves they make than by thinking that moving into left field is a magic cure-all. Sound like a good summary? Other stuff, other stuff that happened today. Dave Roberts said Mookie Betts is the Dodger shortstop next year. No surprises there. I do think eventually
addressing that.
I do think eventually Mookie moves back to second base.
Yeah.
And I think if something came up that the Dodgers, I'm trying to think of, if who's a really good shortstop who could theoretically be traded. I can't think of one. Like Ellie De La Cruz is a bad defensive shortstop, know, so, and he's not going anywhere anyway. But if an elite defensive shortstop fell in the Dodgers' lap, say the Cubs wanted to trade Dansby Swanson, and, to cut costs. Dansby Swanson fell in the Dodgers' lap. Yeah, Mookie Betts would move back to second base. But right now, Mookie Betts is their best option at shortstop defensively. Fine. And I don't believe that playing shortstop contributed to Mookie's offensive struggles this year, at least not enough to justify moving him for it. Elisheva mentions Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette is not an option to play shortstop for the Dodgers. If the Dodgers were going to sign Bo Bichette, it would be to play second base. That's my opinion. I don't think. But anyway, those sort of. Right now, it's hard to picture anybody else passing up Mookie Betts as the Dodgers shortstop because Alex Freeland doesn't seem like he's going to beat down the door to be a starter. If Alex Freeland comes into spring training and bats 700 and it looks like he's a legit big league hitter, then maybe you do. But even then, you probably start him at second base and make sure he can do it in the regular season before you make any big changes.
Unless Mookie takes a massive step or two back next season, like he's going to be the guy for the next year or two, and that's not a problem. And if the bat bounces back the way I think we all hope and I anticipate it to bounce back, be a little closer to what we saw when he found that hot streak in August into September. I find we just struggled to have the kind of exercise there. I mean, we always struggle with the exercise. Look at us, but still, find me a better shortstop. Find me better shortstop upside than Mookie Betts. It's just not. It's not a thing. It's not out there right now. It's an MVP upside at shortstop.
Absolutely. Somebody mentioned Dansby Swanson's weak bat, and but he is an elite defensive shortstop. And you at least know what you're getting from him offensively, So, anyway, that was just a name I threw out of a team that might cheap out and trade a good shortstop. So,
Jay is saying in the chat, Betts at shortstop is the least of the Dodgers' concern right now. Very much agree with that. Nicole mentioning Bichette, and his willingness to move to second. He'd be a solid backup shortstop for Mookie on his days off. But that's why you re-sign, Miguel Rojas. You also have this dude with who's a pretty good glove in the infield, who has a pretty damn good arm in Ha-Seong Kim, that you really need to figure out if he's a major league hitter, and this will be the season where they need to play him around. If he's give him an option to either be the some sort of utility guy, or if he's going to be, I don't want to call him a flame out, but I guess a glove first type of infielder. But you need to see if you can play him in the outfield. You need to see him if you can play him at third, little bit of short, which we did see at some points last season, especially in spring training. Also, Tommy Edman can play some shortstop as well. I don't think they really need a backup shortstop at this moment.
I will say I believe Bo Bichette's shortstop days are behind him wherever he signs. I don't think there's any team that is going to both give him a lot of money and let him be
And
terrible at shortstop for them.
maybe the Jays. It's about the only one I can imagine.
Yeah. Even them. I
But they
mean,
have friendship.
they do have the power of friendship.
Only
And,
team that has friendship.
yep. And they deserve to win the World Series.
That's true. This is true. Congrats on your deserved World Series.
Yeah, I think
Toronto.
last thing to talk about from the winter meetings conversation with Dave Roberts was talking about the WBC. He said that they are still in talks or still trying to figure out what it will look like for both Yamamoto and Roki pitching for Team Japan. And he said that he hasn't talked to Shohei about the WBC, but the expectation is that he will be on Team Japan as a hitter only.
Yeah, I love that.
Which I think makes a lot of sense for Shohei. He can still obviously help a team win as just a hitter. He's pretty good at that hitting thing. All of that will be interesting to see. Roki, I think we all agree, yes, pitch in the WBC.
As much as he can.
Yeah, Yamamoto, you can make pretty good cases either way on why he should or shouldn't.
Slow build up once a week. I'm okay. No more than 4 innings.
Yeah. And the dude's earned it. He's earned the privilege of, he's won 2 World Series in his 2 years with the Dodgers. Didn't do it single-handedly in 2025, but kind of did it single-handedly in 2025.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? If he wants to pitch in the WBC, you let him do it. And Shohei, I hope that Shohei is on board with that plan of just hitting. Jay asks, what's with this power of friendship meme that Clint keeps saying? On social media, Blue Jays fans, who, in fairness to them, have only been Blue Jays fans for 3 months,
Some of them.
They seem to believe that the Blue Jays were unique in that the players liked each other, and they look at the guys, and I got nothing against them. I think that's awesome. But they think that it was unique to the Blue Jays, and that's a very myopic way of looking at things, because every team that has success likes playing with each other. Chemistry is a result of success, not a cause of success. And yeah, the Dodgers, you look at those celebrations, I think the Dodgers had some fun this year. So that's the running joke, because social media, people seem to think that only the Blue Jays like each other.
And I'll say, I'm not over here trying to slam on Blue Jays fans. I love them. I love it. I think the Blue Jays were a very fun team. I think I learned a lot about the Blue Jays, and maybe less so about the city of Toronto, but I learned a lot about the Blue Jays when the Dodgers beat them in 7 games and made themselves the better team.
Like most teams, their biggest problem is their fan base. Same with the Braves. Same with the Padres.
How do you think you would view, outside perspective? Let's say you were a Pirates fan. I'm sorry. How would you view Dodgers fans?
I assume Dodger fans are the same as every other fan base. You got your idiots. You got your non-idiots. You got everything in between. Look, I've been to games in 33 major league stadiums. And guess what? All fans are the same. Every stadium, you got your people who sound like they've never been to a baseball game before, who are being experts explaining baseball to their girlfriends. Those guys always sit 3 rows behind me and talk just loud enough for me to hear them 3 rows in front of them.
Oh, God.
Incorrectly explaining baseball to their girlfriends.
I could just imagine you specifically dealing with that, because that feels like just a small living nightmare for you in particular.
Yeah, I have learned to just enjoy it, to just laugh.
Just let the hand shake.
Whoever I'm at the game with, if I'm not with my wife, I'm texting my wife about it. If I am with my wife, I'm texting my brother about it. I don't address it to the individual, because the dude's trying to have game, and but
Riz.
Every single stadium has that guy, including Dodger Stadium.
the
Every
collar
fan
pop.
base is the same. We all love our teams. None of us are better than anybody else because of the team we like. I'm glad that I'm a Dodger fan. I don't think it makes me better than any other fan of any other team. We're all fans for some reason, usually because of how we were born. You know what? I was born into a Dodger family. You, lifelong Los Angeles, right? If you were born in Atlanta, you'd be a Braves fan. If you were born in Detroit, you'd be a Tigers fan. You know, it just happens. If you were born in anywhere in Canada, probably you'd be a Blue Jays fan. And so you can't hold it against people for who they're a fan of because it's not something we really choose. I give people a hard time sometimes. I ran into a guy one time when I was dropping my daughter off at college, and I had a Dodger shirt on, of course, because it's what I own. And he said, "Oh, I hate your shirt." And I said, "Who are you a fan of?" He said, "Well, I'm from Arizona, so I'm a D-backs fan." I said, "Don't blame geography. Arizona's got more Cubs fans and Dodger fans than D-backs fans anyway, so don't own your choices, man." But the fact is, you know what? Yeah, if you're born in Arizona, after the Arizona had a team, yeah, you're probably going to be a D-backs fan, you know? And so I don't blame people for who they like, and I believe every fan base is about the same. Are Yankees fans more obnoxious? Yeah, probably, but that's because New Yorkers are more obnoxious than most other people in the country. It's not because they're Yankee fans, it's because they're New Yorkers. No offense, New Yorkers, but, you know, kind of obnoxious. If you go watch the Apple TV documentary about the 2024 World Series and the one half of an episode about the one game the Yankees won, you would think that the goal of that documentary was to demonstrate how insufferable Yankee fans are. It's, oh man, those people, they really think that they're part of the team and that what they do in the stands, like they're proud of being obnoxious a-holes in the stands because they think that Anthony Volpe needs them. And
yeah, I mean, I think about those pricks that ripped the baseball out of Mookie Betts' glove and how they were like kind of applauded and
he was a
paraded
beaut.
around. Yeah.
Was that what Jesse Rogers said about him? He was a beaut.
He was a beaut.
Yeah.
Nice extension for Jesse Rogers. Congrats.
Yeah.
Cole, by the way, I love this one. I think he put it a couple of times. I want to make sure Cole had mentioned Blue Jays fans had so much, or sorry, Blue Jays had so much friendship. Mattingly's going to go join the team from the city of brotherly love.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
I missed that one, but I put up the Nestle Quick one. Yeah. You know, the fact is the Blue Jays are like every other team. And yeah, their players like each other because they had a really fun season and a great postseason run. And I wish them all the success through the ALCS again next year. Nothing against the Blue Jays. I saw something ridiculous on Twitter. Some Blue Jays fans saying Dodger fans are more happy about beating the Blue Jays than they are about winning the World Series. Like, of all the teams, like, yeah, other than George Springer and now, what's his name? Jimenez.
Oh, yeah.
I got nothing against the Blue Jays.
You did learn his name. I'm proud of you.
I really like Ernie Clement. I really like Addison Barger. You know, they've got some fun players. I like Vladdy Guerrero.
Gotta like Vladdy.
You know, and
Alejandro
so
Kirk, like dude's a bat.
Yeah, and he hit into a good double play for us. You know, I got no issues with the Blue Jays. I'm glad the Dodgers beat them because that's who the Dodgers were playing in the World Series. I hope whoever they play in the World Series next year, they beat them too. And I will still only be happy because the Dodgers won the World Series and not because of who they beat to win the World Series. All of that, I think, stemmed from who's playing the WBC. So good tangent there by us. You got anything else, Clint? Like,
well, I want to make sure we give some love to Francisco Smurfy24 Dewey Dodoey, however the hell you say. Anyways, in the chat, super chat earlier, $4.99. I'll hit the gong. Giving some love to David Pingalore, not believing the Skubal trade rumor. Same guy reported LeBron was being traded to Golden State. Also, bring Cody home, keep Teo and LA in left field. Cody, right field, has won an MVP and a Gold Glove as a right fielder, but Dodgers say they're not going to do anything. You know, it's no big splash offseason.
They said they don't have to do anything.
They don't have
but
to.
Need is a silly word. Do what you want to do to make the team better. I'm confident that they will do whatever they have the opportunity to do to be an even better team in 2026 than they were in 2025. Whether that's Tarik Skubal, whether that's moving Teoscar Hernandez to a different position, whatever it is, they're going to do their best to make themselves the best team possible next year. And with that said, I think we can wrap this up. We've been going just over an hour. I do see that Speegs is live over on. They don't usually go live on Mondays, but they are right now over on Dodger Blue. So
Makes
check
sense.
that
I
out.
mean, it's what's it called? It's winter
First day
meetings.
of the
Give
winter
them
meetings.
a follow.
Yep.
And I'll double back to Jenny Vega just put it in the chat as well, but JY Kim earlier from his super chat. We do got to make sure we thank you guys again for getting the channel to 21,000 subscribers. Literally can't do it without you guys. We'd appreciate if you hit that like button, subscribe. We are trying to get to 25,000 because that is more than 21. So thank you.
Yeah. Hashtag math, baby. Thank you to the Bleav Network for having us on their podcast network. Thank you to FanDuel for being a presenting sponsor. Thank you to Clint for sometimes acknowledging my name in the name of the podcast, which is All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas and Jeff Snyder. The two of us, if you notice on the opening screen, we are
Synergy.
Both our pictures are on there now. So it's official. I am cartoon official. That's going to do it for us. We will be back probably tomorrow. Definitely tomorrow if there's big news. Probably tomorrow either way. So be sure to subscribe, like it, comment down below. All those things. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the mods. Thanks for the super chats. We love you all. And with that, we will say bye.